Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop, Virginia. My name is Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And tonight we are going to be talking about blogging, new media, and politics. Now, those of you who have watched in the past when we have done social media type programs know that I am not a tech kind of person. That's just not my forte. And my guests are laughing at me because we had that experience before we went on the air that I'm not a tech person. But they know technology, they know politics, and they know blogging. So we're going to ask a bunch of questions about how it all works, how they all got started, and then how it has evolved over the last number of years. I'm sure it existed well before I became aware of it, which was back in, I think, '06 when Jim Webb was running. Was the first time I really became aware of bloggers. So let me tell you who we have, because it's a fabulous group of folks we've got here. Right next to me is Ben Tribbett. Ben Tribbett is known to many of you as Not Larry Sabato. That is the name of his blog. He is also the CEO of Pinpoint Technology, where he's been for the last 5 years. And that is a social media, new media communications company. He used to be a professional campaign consultant, but then our Attorney General, back when he was a senator, Ken Cuccinelli, referred to Ben as a professional campaign insultant. And Ben thought that was good branding and has adopted it as his own. So Ben is with us. Ben is a local product. He went to Fairfax County Public Schools and he went to George Mason University. So thanks for joining us, Ben. I'm glad you could come. Evan McBeth is on the other side of Ben, and Evan is the director of the Loudoun County Democrats. And we will go over whether there are Democrats in Loudoun County, given the last election cycle where apparently they all lost, except for Mark Herring. But other than that, he is a director at Sine Nomine Associates.
Sine Nomine.
Oh my good Lord, it sounds like
It's Latin.
But all right, just be a show-off. He has over a decade of experience in the computer consulting industry. He focuses on delivering profitable projects and services to Fortune 500 customers. He has an education from UVA. We'll take some time and talk about that controversy. And he also has a master's in telecommunication from George Washington University. So welcome, Evan. I'm glad you
Thank you, Bettina. I appreciate it. Wearing my orange in solidarity with my fellow Wahoos.
Well, you know, you all have a lot of problems going on down there right at the moment. It's pretty amazing. And actually, I read about it on the blog. So it fits right into the topic. For those folks who aren't really familiar with blogs, because we have a lot of folks who watch the show who are TV kind of people. They use computers for, you know, business, but they're not out on Facebook and they're not out doing things. So what's a blog? Is there a classic definition of it? Is it any kind of commentary as a blog? What's a blog?
Well, a blog is a web journal that is updated in backwards time, so that the most recent blog post is on the top rather than on the bottom. That's the when blogs first started, many people updated websites from the top down. So you would have to scroll all the way down to see the most recent update. A blog is the reverse, where it's a weblog that updates on top for whatever your most recent post or story is.
Now, I've seen yours and I've seen Blue Virginia. And Evan, I don't know what, do you still blog?
I haven't blogged since I became chair of Loudoun County Democrats.
So now you're just in letters to the editor. I see you've got a slew of these things.
I do my share of sharing my thoughts with the community, but as chair, I'm afforded certain abilities to put my word out there under different mechanisms.
Okay.
So I haven't really updated my blogs in a while, and that's a personal choice. I try to represent the Democrats of Loudoun, whereas on my blogs I represent myself. But when I was writing for blogs, I wrote some for Blue Virginia. I wrote for my own personal blog, which is Leesburg Tomorrow. I helped found Loudoun Progress. I was a blogger on Blue Commonwealth when that was around. So I've been active in the Virginia blogosphere since 2007.
Okay, and now when did this, because I said I first became aware of it in 2006 with Jim Webb. When did it first start? Is that around when it all started, or became popular, or what?
I mean, if you're going back to Atrios and all them, it probably predates John Kerry. John Kerry's campaign in 2004 was where blogging, I think, really got its came into the forefront a little bit. There's a very famous story. Atrios, who's one of the original kind of era of that blogger, he actually had a bit on the West Wing. And Daily Kos, which is how I got into blogging, that really had its ramp up during the 2004 period and thereafter. So that's, I don't know what your experience is starting here in Virginia.
There were some Virginia blogs that existed around 2002, 2003, 2004, but most of the Virginia blogosphere really got going in 2005, and then 2006 was when there were a lot of breakthroughs.
Okay, so how does it actually work? Because I see people post on your blog, Ben, with very creative names. Some people post under their own name, some people post anonymously. Why do you allow people to post anonymously? If they're not willing to stand and say, this is what I believe, then shouldn't they just keep quiet?
Well, I allow people to post anonymously because it allows a broader discussion to go on. I'll give you a good example. A few years ago, I had a debate that was going on between an anonymous commenter who used the same screen name each time, and well, two anonymous commenters used the same screen name each time, back and forth. I later found out one was a very high-level elected official who was actively defending themselves, but never would have done that under their own name. And the other one, I later learned when I went to Oakton High School the next year to speak to their Young Democrats, and found out I was actually a member of the Young Democrats chapter who was doing a project on that high-level elected official. Now, neither one of them, I don't think, would have interacted had they known who the other one was. True. I don't think the elected official would have waded into an argument with a high school student, nor would a high school student have taken on the elected official in the way they did. But they were actually going back and forth on it because the anonymity allowed both of them to go at it and really just exchange ideas without the premise of who was behind it.
And on anonymity, the interesting criticism of bloggers and anonymity, to me, is if you look at the history of our democracy, the pamphleteers that founded our nation were anonymous. James Madison himself wrote Federalist Papers anonymously. We didn't find out who wrote them until later. So we are continuing in a very long and very proud tradition here in the Commonwealth of Virginia by allowing our neighbors to participate in a conversation anonymously.
Interesting perspective, because I hadn't really thought of it going all the way back. But you're right, and you're absolutely right, Ben, because most people would not be willing to put out some of their theories if they had to be personally identified with them. Now, you as the person who runs the blog, do you know, how does somebody sign up? I've never quite figured that out. One day I thought I might actually sign up and comment on your blog, and then I chickened out. But how does somebody do that? They go to Not Larry Sabato.
It's totally different by blog. In the case of my blog, you don't have to sign up. There's just, you just enter a name and your email address. You can sign up if you want to register your screen name so no one else can use it. But if you just want to comment, you can do that just by logging into the comment section and just entering any screen name you want, any email address you want. It doesn't have to be your real email. And a lot of people choose not to use their real email addresses.
Mine would kind of give me away immediately since it's,
right.
But the emails don't show, right? It's just the person's name.
They do not. They only show to me, and some people will choose to put their real email there so that they can tell me who they are, even if they aren't wanting the whole public to know who was doing it.
Okay, all right.
And other people want to remain anonymous even from me. And in other cases like Blue Virginia, which is a large progressive blog in Virginia, and probably the most interactive blog to what people would use as a first-time blogger if they wanted to create content, because that's where you can create an account and post your own information as a blog post rather than as a comment. On Not Larry Sabato, you can only do a comment. On Blue Virginia, you could do your own post just by creating an account. There you do have to register an account with a real email and tell them who you are. Now, you could make that up. Anyone could create an email address, but on some level, they're trying to see who is behind each of their posts, that they, at least internally, they know.
And is there a standard, like at Blue Virginia, is there a standard that says these are the kind of people that we allow to be actual posters? And then you can kick them off, though,
no, actually, I take that back. There is a standard, and it's when they are abusive. Yeah, they will take them off. There's standards of the community.
Okay, but the initial ability to post is
I think the standards that's used by the blogs is the standard that would be used by any public meeting. If you're being disruptive to the objective of that public meeting, they may ask you to leave the public meeting. By a similar standard, if you're being disruptive to the debate that's going on the blog, then it's highly likely you'll be kicked off the blog.
Okay.
And since the blogs have really gotten up and going, there's been a lot of technology changes. In just the last few years, when I started Not Larry Sabato, YouTube didn't exist. Facebook, I think, was only at Harvard at that time.
Yeah,
or
either at Harvard and Stanford.
Right, it was just getting started. It was totally closed network to college students at a couple universities. So the way that information moves has dramatically changed even the last few years with the blogs. And now, a lot of us that do blogs are very much social media people rather than just bloggers, because we have to get the message out on a multitude of channels rather than just through our blogs.
Well, and I did notice recently that, and I don't know how long you've been on Facebook, but I just became aware recently that you were on Facebook, and that's what typically clues me in that I need to go out and read something on your blog, is because that's where I see it.
So you're not on Twitter then, Bettina?
I do have a Twitter account, because when Catherine Reed, who was coming to talk to us about social media, was here and she was talking about Twitter, and I said, well, should I get my name? And she said, yes, it's always a good idea to get your own name so nobody else can take it, because I'll tell you, the demand for my name is just stratospheric. So I did, and that's all I did, because I couldn't figure out how to do anything else. As I say, technology and me, not so much. I have people following me, and I'm like, I have never posted on Twitter or tweeted or whatever it's
A lot of
called.
anticipation.
Is that what it is? I'm building the. I'm going to have my great launch when I get to
There's
my
also
people.
a degree of respect thing. To follow someone on Twitter, it's a sign of respect to a degree. There's folks that I follow on Twitter that I don't know them very, very well, but I like them, and I want to say, hey, I actually support some of the things you're doing, so I respect you. There's also a sign of significance. I'm rather proud today. I got a follower that I never expected to get. The governor's press secretary started following me on Twitter today. Possibly because he and I are both UVA grads, and I was tweeting some things about our alma mater. Perhaps he and I agree on this issue that the Board of Visitors was definitely acting in a not UVA way in the actions they took with regards to President Sullivan. I hope that's why he started following me. But I think, it was interesting to finally get a follower like that on my list, because I'm relatively new to Twitter myself.
And you can post on Twitter like a URL or something, right? That would take them back to your blog to do that.
You have 140
that's how it all
characters.
kinds of works in.
Right, you have 140 characters, so you can do anything you want with those characters. A link is usually about 18 to 20 characters, so you can put about 120 characters of explanation around it, which is a good 2 sentences. Twitter was designed as 140 characters because texting was 160 characters, and a lot of people wanted, when they designed Twitter, they didn't think as many people as they do would use the Twitter interface, that a lot of it would use it through texting, and they wanted something where you could sign up to receive text through Twitter.
Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know there was such a thing as a Twitter interface. Well, we are going to break. We can hear the music, and then we're going to come back and talk some more about what the bloggers are doing in politics, show you some YouTube clips that Ben had put up that caused some controversy. Stay with us.
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
We're back. I'm your host, Bettina Lawton, and I have with me tonight Ben Tribbett, also known as Not Larry Sabato, and Evan Macbeth, also known as the chair of the Loudoun County Democrats. And they are both bloggers. Evan has sort of suspended his right now because of his position as the Loudoun County Democrat chair, although I suspect he comments on other people's. And we were talking about how it all came about and the use of Twitter in politics. So I do want to follow up on the one thing, because when we were off, we were talking about Twitter followers, because as Evan had said in the first segment, that having followers on Twitter is kind of a sign of respect. And I have maybe 12, but Ben has 42, 43?
42, yep.
4,200, which is more than Ken Cuccinelli, our Attorney General, and until recently, more than Terry McAuliffe's. But we expect that he will move up. Terry, unless you get into a race, can you do Twitter races for
We have
followers?
done Twitter races.
Have you really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is where we stand. 12, 4,300.
Where are you at?
I think about 138 as of the secretary, the press secretary of the governor.
Yeah, that's like kind of neat. Although I would always, because I have a highly suspicious mind, I would tend to think I was being stalked if I were you. You know, as chair of the Loudoun County, having the governor's press secretary on your Twitter.
You know, it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect.
Okay. Now, can you Twitter, by the way, can you Twitter directly to just one person, or does it always go out?
To one person,
oh,
yes.
Sorry. Okay, so
well,
you could.
You can direct message to someone where it's a private message, or you can @message them where it goes to them, but other people can see it.
It's not that private. Anthony Weiner found that out.
Well, he turned he meant to do a direct message and turned it into an @message.
Oh, is that was his problem among many others?
Right.
Apparently?
You start a direct message with the letter D and a space, and if you don't have that letter D and a space, it goes out to everybody. And so he forgot the D, which meant instead his picture went to everybody instead of to the one person.
That's proving that the elected officials that don't understand social media, new media, these kind of things are at risk of falling apart because of it.
Well, I did get about a year and a half ago a tweet, and it came through Facebook. This is how I saw it. And I since learned that they are called drunken tweets, because it was an elected official, and it posted, if it was on my Facebook, you know, it's on everybody else's Facebook, and I read it and I thought, oh, surely not. And then it went on and on, because, you know, the 140 characters.
I remember this series of tweets. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, it was just absolutely horrible. It was incredibly insulting to most of us, what he was saying. I was like, oh my God, this is just really awful. So the word to the wise is, elected officials, if you don't know what you're doing, hire somebody who does. Don't get out there. You'll find yourselves.
I hear pinpoint technology is pretty good at that.
I heard that too.
All right, well.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of these tools, Bettina, you know, it's interesting because we're the second adapters at politics. Corporate comes after politics. And what a lot of people don't understand is the first adapter to a lot of these tools is actually the porn industry. And a lot of what we do successfully in politics actually is driven by what the porn industry did before us. And I'll give you a couple examples that's actually very, very serious about this. They were the first ones that understood when someone goes online that not everyone wants to be a consumer of what they have. And they had to identify who online would want to consume their product and at what points would they want to consume it. And they were able to take things like, for example, time of day, demographics of that person to figure out who did they want to target their advertising to. A lot of political advertising has come in after that as well. There's certain times where people want to consume political information. And then there's times a day where, you know, like they're not consuming political stuff, they're consuming something else online. So, you know, my blog traffic is highest between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. because people at work want to pull in information. They have some extra time during the day. They're looking what's happening. It's lower late at night. Obviously, a porn site would be the exact opposite. People wouldn't view it during the day. They'd go to it at night. Search engine optimization, getting people to find your product when they're searching for it and having it be the top return on Google. You have a 10 times return every time something goes down a Google page. So in other words, the second page has 10 times less views than the than the first page, then 10 times less on the third page. So you want to be, the higher you're ranked on Google, the more likely people are to find you that are searching for you. So if someone goes on Google and was searching for a term in that industry, they figured out we need to be on top for them to find us. Political people then figured this out, that it's not just about what's said about you online, it's about where do they find it when they're searching for you. So a lot of the way, and online video, of course, was instituted by the porn industry, and then political video came behind that. YouTube, which doesn't have any of those types of videos, 2006, but this has been around since 1999, 2000. So a lot of these things that we use in politics are actually all tools from that industry. And I always tell my clients this, at Pinpoint Technology is, the corporate world that's trying to get into these things, they're trailing politics, but that's where you see the first adapters, is these leading industries that want to test these things online.
Well, I'm refraining from making the obvious connection between the first initiator and the second. I'm just going to leave it there because it's too obvious to even say.
I threw you a softball.
You did throw me a softball, but I'm just going to refuse to catch it.
There you go.
Because no one will ever come on this politics show again if I start making those kinds of comments. It'll go viral on me.
Did you find the macaca video climbing the rankings? I mean, was that something that was engineered or something that happened organically?
Well, I built up the anticipation for it. We were talking about it in the break, but I was the person in 2006 who first broke the story of the macaca video. And when we had it out there, I wrote about it for 3 days before it was posted online to build the anticipation. So when it hit, that there would be a really large explosion of people wanting to share it, because there was a lot of anticipation to what was this thing that we were building all the anticipation to.
Well, and I'm going back to find the video for those of you, because I saw some, interestingly enough, people saying, oh, the whole macaca thing, and we're talking about former Senator George Allen, is really not a big deal, and people just need to leave that alone, and that was so long ago. So let me pull it up, because I'm trying to get it up here, and I actually know where I want to start it. So.
My friends, we're going to run this campaign on positive, constructive ideas. And it's important that we motivate and inspire people for something. This fellow over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is, he's with my opponent. He's following us around everywhere. And it's just great. We're going to places all over Virginia. And he's having it on film, and it's great to have you here, and you show it to your opponent, because he's never been there and probably will never come. So it's good for you. Living inside the Beltway, or his opponent actually right now is with a bunch of Hollywood movie moguls. We care about fact, not fiction. So welcome, let's give a welcome to Macaca here. Welcome to America and the real world of Virginia. My friends, we're in the midst of a war.
And that, the welcome to Macaca and Virginia and the real world, really, once it was released, was just devastating to George Allen's campaign.
And should have been.
And should have been. It totally was. But Jim Webb, and I was an early supporter of Jim Webb, and it was definitely fighting every inch of the way, because that's who we were facing, was, a current sitting senator.
Presidential candidate.
And presidential candidate. That was the most amazing thing. Now, you said before we looked at this that you sort of built up. Now, where did you get this from? I'm always kind of curious as to where, oh, this is secret information. He's not going to tell us. Okay,
well,
okay.
Protecting
his source.
There's books that have been written about this speculating, so you have to check that book out.
This is actually interesting, because I moved to Virginia in 2006, and I was learning some things about the Commonwealth. I'd lived here for years before that. I went to UVA. I'd lived here for years, but my wife and I had been out of the Commonwealth for 3 years while she was getting her degree. And when we were moving back, I was looking online, and I was following Raising Cain, which was one of the original collaborative blogs here in Virginia. And in 2006, when I moved here, that is when I started to get involved. And the Macaca video and that whole incident is one of the reasons that I'm even sitting in this chair now. The whole reason that I got up one day, walked down to the Loudoun County Democratic offices on a Saturday, walked in the front door and said, put me to work for Jim Webb, was because of stuff I'd been reading online. It kind of kicked me in the pants and got me going. So whenever you hear this skepticism, oh, online engagement isn't real engagement, I beg to differ. I sit here today as Loudoun County Chair entirely because of online engagement, because of things like people like Ben have done.
Well, it was a shocking kind of video when it came out, and it was one of the first times I think that a lot of people had that access to what's being said in less. It was a public forum in that sense, but it wasn't like a huge rally where there were lots of TV cameras and all this other stuff. So it was really important for that race, and I think pushed up the perception that bloggers were actually somewhat dangerous.
Well, and if you remember, control of the Senate was down to Jim Webb and down to a few thousand votes. I mean, literally, Democratic control of the Senate and the ability to pass health care reform and all of Barack Obama's first-term agenda partially rested on the fact that we were able, Ben was able, and the Virginia blogosphere was able to capture a moment of true reality from George Allen.
Well, I think it's important, too, to note that one of the reasons the video was so successful was it played into what he had done in the past. This wasn't a solo incident. And if George Allen had said this and he didn't have the history of that he had for years in Virginia, then I think it may have gone away and people may have said, well, you know, he was just kidding. But with the history that he had, being someone who had voted against the Martin Luther King holiday, had hung a noose in his office, had a whole series of things. And then after the video came out, it was an avalanche of other stories that we had never heard before. You know, from a college teammate who came out to say that they severed a deer head and went searching through the neighborhood to find an African-American household to stuff the deer head in their mailbox. And these things all came out that we had never heard before because the video kind of inspired them to come forward with these stories. And I think it was important in that race, but I think what it really showed was you have to have a baseline. It doesn't just work to just throw something out the first time. You really have to create a whole storyline. And one of the things, Raising Cain at that time had done that was very successful leading up to this video, which I was the one who started the video, but Raising Cain had done that really moved it was they had chronicled these things for months and really built the whole narrative of what George Allen was when this video came.
And remains.
Exactly. And so, it was really a team effort. There were a lot of people involved in making it a success.
Well, and Evan, I think, there's that old saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now we're looking at George Allen running against Tim Kaine, and Raising Cain is raising K-A-I-N-E.
Yep.
They're running against each other, and again, the control of the Senate is hanging in the balance as to who's going to get elected from Virginia. Are we going to go with a progressive governor, or are we going to go back in time to somebody like George Allen, who I don't think has changed based on what I hear anecdotally from people who have interacted with him since he left the Senate. So that's the lesson for today, folks, is pay attention, because start reading the blog, start looking and finding out what's going on before you cast that vote in November. But we are going to come back. We've got another break, and then we're going to continue talking about it. We've got some other great clips for you, including Dave Alvo's infamous clip from last winter. Stay with us.
Osama bin Laden calls getting nuclear weapons a religious duty.
Today, materials that can be used to make nuclear weapons are stored in more than 40 countries.
Sometimes protected by just a chain-link fence.
Yet not enough is being done to lock down these materials
before terrorists steal them.
Why did we learn all this?
My mother.
My son.
My sister-in-law.
Were all murdered September 11th.
Help protect America.
Together we can.
Please join us.
The stem cell issue is being debated throughout the country. Truth is, most everyone has an opinion, even if they don't know the facts.
Let's stop arguing and start really understanding the potential of stem cell research.
For us and for millions of Americans living with disabilities, get the facts.
Call 1-877-842-3442 for free information from the Stem Cell Research Foundation. That's 1-877-842-3442.
Following the tragic events of September 11th, there have been hundreds of violent attacks against innocent Americans.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for.
Remember, please stop the hate.
We're stronger when we are united.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for.
One nation, under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty.
And justice.
For all.
In America, there's either room for everyone, or it's not America.
Don't pick the wrong fight.
Let's keep America land of the free.
Stop the hate.
Planning a home renovation? Put this at the top of your to-do list. Because after 10 years, none of you are protected against tetanus and another potentially fatal disease, diphtheria. A minor injury, such as a cut or a scrape, can put you at risk for a tetanus infection. And while safety gear offers some protection, an up-to-date vaccination called the TD booster is the best insurance against tetanus. So get the TD booster. If it's been 10...
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton. We are here talking about blogging, new media, and politics. We have Ben Tribbett with us, who introduced the concept of macaca to the national political lexicon with the video he uploaded on former Senator George Allen. And we also have Evan McBeth, who is here, who is now the Loudoun County Democrat chair, and also a blogger of long repute. So thank you so much for staying and continuing our conversation. I want to, we had the situation with Jim Webb. We talked about the macaca thing with George Allen. But Jim Webb, as I recall, actually got recruited based on the blogosphere. And I remember folks in the regular political universe really poo-pooing this, that this was just a bunch of rabble-rousers who weren't going to be able to do this, and the party designate was going to be the candidate, and it didn't happen. How did that whole thing with Jim Webb gain the kind of momentum that it had?
Well, it was three bloggers, Lowell Feld, Josh Trinella, and Lee Diamond, who got together and started the Draft Jim Webb website. It was based actually on an interview he had done in December of 2005, saying he would be interested in running if he was asked. And it was in a San Diego, California newspaper. And they discovered it, researched him, found him to be to their liking, met with him, found him to be even more to their liking, and started a draft movement. And really, Jim Webb's, I think, network that he had encountered throughout the years really then stepped in to get behind this movement and really made it a success, sending it out. There were a lot of military listservs that were sending out, for people to sign up to recruit him to run. And I believe it was over 1,000 people signed up to recruit him to run, offered to volunteer, contribute, and those names were all delivered to him as an infrastructure for his campaign when he decided to do it.
Well, it was a lot of fun, that campaign, because there was no sort of adult supervision in the early days, as we would say, because it was just everybody trying to do what they could to get to the primary, to get him to be the official candidate. And then throughout the summer, and the brigades, which is a grassroots organization, came out from that, of the volunteers. They've stuck together for 6 years in terms of helping other candidates and doing voter registration and doing all kinds of other stuff. So it's really, I think, had an amazing influence, particularly in Northern Virginia. I don't know if the brigades goes statewide, but certainly in Northern Virginia.
I think it does in other parts of the Commonwealth. I mean, most Webb supporters, many of them like me, got their start that way. Right. And they're very proud of that.
Yeah, we all are, and we were all kind of, oh, he's not going to run. I wasn't too surprised, because he just, retail politics was just not his thing. He's one of those guys, he's a great senator, but the campaigning is just not his natural forte. It's just not what he likes to do. I used to watch him doing it and think, oh, you need to get out there a little bit more, Jim. But he's a great senator. I mean, I'm sorry that he's going. So let's talk about sort of fast forward it up. We had an experience this past session down at the General Assembly where the Republicans did really well last year in the elections and increased their numbers in the House of Delegates to a veto-proof level. They split the Senate 2020, and with Bill Bolling as the lieutenant governor, took over control of the Senate.
Let's be clear about that. They overturned established Virginia precedent to take over. It wasn't like that was what was going to happen. People need to realize this isn't like the United States Senate. There was a precedent of power sharing that the Republicans threw out the window after the 2020 majority was put in place. So
true. Thank you.
I'm just
that
saying.
is absolutely true. Because we do tend to skip over the fact that in the last time this happened, they shared power, and they had co-chairs, and they had a Republican and a Democrat, and things were evenly split. And this time, the Republicans said, "No, we got."
Well, Republicans have a history of power grabs. Whenever they get in a little bit of power, our governor's exercising that quite a bit right now, as a matter of fact.
Spoken like the true chair of the Loudoun Democrats.
Spoken as fact.
Spoken as fact. Okay. Well, let's, I want to run the Dave Albo video because people kept hearing up in Northern Virginia, and I guess around the state, the crazy stuff that was going on down in the House of Delegates. But I don't think it really came home to roost until people saw this video that was posted up. And I'm starting it sort of partway through because he does this whole sort of thing saying, you know, all about the legislation. And this is the transvaginal ultrasound legislation. I do like the things I've seen on your blog that say if you can't say it, you shouldn't be legislating about it. Because you'll see in the clip that Dave Albo can't quite get that out. But that's what he's talking about. It. For those of you who may have never seen it before, that's what he's talking about. So let's watch this.
Got Rita some red wine. Sat next to her. Used my patented cool move. I invented this, and it's a United States patent. I went, oh, I'm so tired. I then turn on the TV to find the Redskin channel. Now, I know you think that's weird, but my wife loves the Redskins more than she loves me. So I'm going through the TV. Got my theme music going, my red wine, looking for the Washington Redskins, and I start flipping through the channels. And through the channels, you have to get through the news stuff. And all of a sudden, on my big screen TV comes this big thing and a picture of a bill that has Albo on it. I went, wow, holy smokes, my name is big as a wall. And the very next scene was a gentleman from Alexandria's face, as big as my wall, going, trans V, and just trans V this and trans V that, and they hate women, and we're gonna, in that bill, she killed a bill because she didn't go far enough, she's crazy, and just goes on and on and on. And I'm like this with my wife. And the show's over, and she looks at me and she goes, I gotta go to bed.
And there we have it.
Love how proud he was of having sponsored that bill. That pride is something that we here in Virginia should really love.
Yeah, really, really. And I was so, I gotta tell you, I was so horrified when I saw that locker room mentality on the floor of the House of Delegates.
And can I give you some context behind it?
Yes.
You saw at the end, well, I think we might cut off right before the end, there were some people standing, including the Democrats standing to applaud. And when I first heard about this, it was from a Democrat calling to tell me how funny it was, who was a colleague of his. And this hysterical thing happened. And as soon as I heard about it, I knew immediately the public is not going to react to this the same way the members do. Mm-hmm. That they're not going to appreciate that the floor is being used like this. They're not going to appreciate that this is what people are doing in Richmond. And so I asked to help get this video. And this member argued with me for 10 minutes on that it's not worth it, it's not going to do anything. I put it up on a Friday afternoon. It literally had 250,000 views within a week.
Yeah.
250,000 people watch it. That doesn't count the network television that aired it. It went all over the country. And it moved because people were so outraged that this is what would be happening in a legislature. And I remember, a few hours after I posted it, I had an email from a friend in Japan who teaches at a college there who didn't know I had uploaded it and sent it to me to say, hey, you need to put this up on your blog. This is really great stuff. So it really moved all over the world very quickly.
Okay. Well, and there was a lot of reposting. It really got people agitated that on what is a very serious topic, because as people learned as that whole conversation went on, what they were proposing to mandate for women seeking their constitutionally protected medical procedure was statutory rape.
I love the phrase you learn that you used there, because the sponsor of that bill in the Senate was from Loudoun County, Jill Holtzman-Vogel. She never read the bill before she sponsored it. When she went to withdraw it, she said, oh, I didn't know what was in it. So the accountability that resulted from that clip is critical. It is part of the accountability of government to have these things available, to have these things widely dispersed. And let's face it, The Washington Post would not have grabbed that. NBC4 wouldn't have grabbed that. They didn't. The only way that got grabbed was because of an anecdotal story, and because someone with the skill to be able to edit the video was able to do that. So it adds to our democratic foundations by creating accountability where we need it.
And you just speak things in the internet language as well. Bettina, a lot of people don't understand this when they're first getting involved in online things, but it's a different language than what people are used to. And for example, on that particular video, it was uploaded by 2 different sources about the same time, myself and Channel 12 in Richmond, because I had on their YouTube account, because I had started tweeting about it and drew their attention, and I think a producer there figured out this is going to turn big. Their video maybe got 1,000 views, mine got over 250,000. And the reason was I used internet language. The title of my video was Dave Alvo's wife rejects sex with him. The title of the NBC 12 video was Funny Exchange on the House Floor.
Oh.
And just the title of the video, because the title shows up in the previews on sites, I knew that by using that title as it was embedded on websites, it would draw people to click on it. Because when you're scrolling through a website and you see that video title, well, you've got to click on that.
You have to.
This is going to be interesting,
Right.
And so you have to know how to speak in that language and where to put those types of words that would get people to pay attention to it. Otherwise, this could have just gone completely dead overnight.
Right. And again, people will get the vapors over the language that's being used on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back in American history. Let's look at the things that were said about Thomas Jefferson in 1800. Let's look at the things that were said about Andrew Jackson. Let's look about the things that have been said about our leaders throughout history. It's always been dirty and dark and from the farthest reaches of decency. That's always been part of our politics. And for a lot of the leaders of today to poo-poo the blogs and look down their noses at the blogs because of some of the language that gets used there is a willful blindness to the history of the way that politics and political discourse has actually been happening in America for 200 years.
But to take their side, to play the devil's advocate on this, because what you're saying is true. A lot of people say, though, that if what you have is a little pamphlet, and so you've got the pamphlet and you've run it off, this is colonial times, and you've run it off and you're going to overthrow England. That went to your little town. When you post something on a blog or on the internet, it goes all around the world. It has a massive impact.
No, it doesn't.
And there's that whole,
it goes if it's something interesting, it goes all over. Most things that are posted on the internet, no one ever sees.
And I would also ask, okay, so you say it has a small print of this pamphlet. What percentage of people who could actually exercise the franchise in the time saw it? Probably a comparable percentage to today. It just so happens that we're more democratic now. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Okay. I agree. I just thought I'd put it out there. The coarsening of politics, people keep lamenting.
Always been coarse.
All right. People need to get better on their American political history, apparently, and not get so upset about these things. So we are going to break. We can hear the music, which means we are going to take a break, and then we will come back for our final segment. You can call in. They have the email addresses right there. There's a phone number they'll put up. Stay with us.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton. I have Ben Tribbett and Evan Macbeth with me. And when we left, we were talking about the coarseness and the allegations about how it has become so coarse and that bloggers are contributing to this. And Evan reminded me, while we were on break, about something that the actual official Republican committee in Loudoun County put out, and I did happen to have it in my computer, so you're going to see it on your screen. Evan.
Yeah, this is a video. This is a picture that went out in celebration of Halloween. The Republicans were inviting their friends to come do some campaigning at the Halloween parade, and you can see there a nice picture of our president with a bullet hole in his head. And this was sent out under the heading and by the official party organ in Loudoun County, Virginia. Now, the Republicans love talking about how Democrats are coarsening our discourse, but they have no compunctions about sending this away. Governor McDonnell had to disown this particular email, but it's very interesting to note that the Republican chair under whose name this went out is still chair in Loudoun County. Now, he had to can his communications chair, don't get me wrong.
Well, someone must be accountable, right?
But nothing goes out in Loudoun Democrats without my say-so. I'm held accountable for it. I should be. Kind of feel my counterpart would feel the same because, you know, Republicans should be about accountability, except when it comes to their own party.
Well, they are all about personal responsibility. We know that. So it's amazing that the guy's still in, or assuming it's a guy.
Well, he was highly successful. I mean, it's very much in keeping with Karl Rove's racial profiling and Lee Atwater and the rest. They reward those who coarsen as long as the coarsening is to define the other. And, you know, the Democratic side of our discourse gets agitated and gets frustrated when talking about broadening the community that we live in, when talking about giving those who have no voices the voice to participate. That's when we get agitated. And that is, of course, what the powers that be cannot stand.
True, true. And we have a caller, Dante from Fairfax.
Yeah, how are you?
Whoa, we're good. How are you, Dante?
I'm doing good, man. Now, Ben, I gotta say, I love your blog. I love how you promote the Democratic Party, but you also trash them. I love that. But I got one question for you.
Sure.
I want to know, what is this not Larry Sabato thing? I mean, because every time I hear that, all I think of is Larry Sabato. And I don't think of your name, I just think of Larry Sabato. So what's the deal with the name?
Well,
Thanks, Dante.
Right. When I launched the blog, I was doing it anonymously, and we were talking earlier about search engine optimization. Larry Sabato was the #1 search term on Virginia politics at that time. So by naming it not Larry Sabato, it got my blog to be in the top 10 Google returns for Larry Sabato, which made people find it.
Interesting. And there have been people who have adopted that. They're all, not John Mosby is there, and not this one, and
There's a not Ben Tribbett, if memory serves.
Yes, not Ben Tribbett, which did make me wonder if it was really Ben Tribbett.
No, that's not
Okay. Well, let's talk about today and how is it going to play out? Because you've got bloggers, and that's kind of still defined as a grassroots kind of vehicle, right?
Well, what's interesting about that, I think, is especially in the last 5 or 6 years, is how more integrated with the standard political operating procedures of campaigns and parties the blogging community has become. They all have a blog strategy. They all have paid staff blog people now. They have people who are paid to tweet. They have outreach specifically to these groups. Press releases will always go out to not only the press but also the blogs. So, I think that to define the blogosphere, which is the term of art we like to use for ourselves, as some kind of other or separate from the Democratic establishment, is to misunderstand that at this point in the game, the blogosphere and bloggers are as much part of the team as labor is, or as any other group would be. We just have a different set of skills that we bring to the party and a different set of issues that we bring to the party. Bloggers tend to be very much about open information and very much about lack of regulation on that communication of information.
Which drives the party establishment insane.
Yeah, so I was going to say, as Dante said, you write about Democrats, you write about Republicans, Ben, but you write about Democrats, and you drive them frequently up the wall. And there have been times, and I will tell you, there have been times where I have thought, somebody needs to commit Ben Tribbett because the man has clearly lost his mind. But you're out there, you're doing this stuff. You've obviously done some good things, influencing elections in terms of Macaca stuff, in terms of the Dave Albo and what happened with all of that. So there's some good things that go on. But can bloggers ever really, I mean, Evan, you're now chair of Loudoun Democrats, but you're not blogging. Can bloggers consistent with those kinds of values of openness, integrity, really ever be part of the Democratic machine, campaigns?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then how does that work? Because if you're part of it,
the reason that I'm not
criticize.
blogging as much, but this is politics. Of course you get criticized. If criticism was an issue, there's no way on God's earth I could be chair of the Loudoun Democrats, because
I did read that, by the way.
I mean, you opened the show by talking about how much we were blown out of the water.
Yeah,
so
pretty much were.
Criticism hasn't been an issue, and we weren't blown out of the water. It just so happens that the majority of Loudoun that are Democrats, and it's a majority of people in Loudoun who are Democrats, didn't come out to vote. It was a turnout question.
Shocking that the majority are Democrats.
Well, when you look at the statistics in Loudoun County, the more people vote, Democrats win. 05, 06, 07, 08. Turnout went up, 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 and up. When you have more people voting, the Democrats win. The only way the Republicans win is by pushing down turnout. One of the things I love about new media and the blogosphere is how quickly we're now able to communicate about challenges to those voting rights. We're able to communicate to communities that might otherwise be at risk about things they need to be paying attention to. We're able to communicate about early voting options and absentee voting and the ID you need to bring. You know, it's no longer secret what is happening in Florida.
Right.
Well, and I think, to your point, Bettina, on how people judge some of the blogs, with all due respect to you, sometimes, people that are from a different generation than what Evan and I are view these things completely differently because they just have a different context. And I'll give you a great example of this. On my Facebook account a couple weeks ago, I put up a joke. I'd been at an event with Patrick Hope, and he had a donkey come to his event. And I took a picture with the donkey and put up a post on Facebook and tagged it and said, I felt like I needed to meet with Chairman Brian Moran to really work out all the issues with the DPVA. Well, most people found that pretty amusing. Although I've had a number of elderly people within the party in the last 2 weeks since I posted that at events come up to me that are friends with me on Facebook and ask how the meeting went, because they don't know how to read Facebook in the same way, and so they don't understand when it's in that box, the picture is linked to the words, so they only read the words. And they thought I was actually meeting with him. And so there's a whole different way that different generations actually even see the same information online. And you have to understand, it's always a wake-up call to me when that happens. Okay. Because, you would see it and understand it, but a generation above you wouldn't understand it at all. And they're going to think, they don't understand what that was linked together. So it's all about how you view it, and a lot of younger people that get their information through technologies view these things totally differently. They understand the humor in some of the things that I write, where people that have been involved in the party a long time will say, "Why is he writing that?" Well, because part of online is getting people to read your stuff, and you have to be humorous. And when you try humor, sometimes you swing and miss. I mean, I've swung and missed before. But
and if you look at the way that political discourse in America has trended and changed. Humor has started to take up a much larger and larger role in media commentary and political commentary. The rise of Stephen Colbert, the rise of Jon Stewart, the rise of the blogs, these are all tied because in times of great challenge and great tension, that is when the humorists rise to the top. Some of the funniest stuff that was ever written was written in some of the most difficult times that we've ever experienced.
Well, and it is unfortunate, and other people have said this, that Jon Stewart, in particular, during this whole situation with the General Assembly and the transvaginal ultrasounds, at one time at night said, it's telling you something about Virginia when you don't need your writers to come up with stuff. You just replay what they're doing in the General Assembly. And it was devastating to people who are watching this, because we were subject to such ridicule about what was going on. And it was blogs, it was the comedy people, it was everybody.
And there are people who take issue with the blogs because the blogs often seem so strident.
Yes.
And what I try to, because I'm a party chair, and so I have to have conversations with people who really have issues with the stridency, and then people who really have issues with the lack of action among our leaders and stuff. Right. And it's my job to, and I love that part of the job, bring those people in the same tent and say we're moving in the same direction. What I like to say is you need the people who are strident, the people with the loudest, angriest voices, because they pull the conversation. They're a gravity well, and they pull the whole universe of possible things we could do farther in the direction of being more progressive and being more inclusive. So we need them in order to pull us in a direction that bends the arc of history to justice, to using the wonderful phrase of Martin Luther King Jr. But we also need the people who know how to get things done legislatively. We need the people who are much more fixers and doers and can just get legislation through and aren't as strident. And they feed off of each other. And the blogs and Twitter and Facebook are a critical tool in expanding that universe of justice, because if you look across, especially the Democratic blogosphere, there has been universal support for an extremely long time, for example, for equal rights for marriage, equal marriage rights. That is not something that would even have entered the possible conversation when the blogosphere in Virginia got its start, which was, you know, in both of our recent memories.
Right.
Because of that, at least partially because of the expansion of the conversation that blogs afforded, that was a plank in our Democratic Party platform in the Commonwealth of Virginia this year. That's a win. That's a win.
Okay, and what are the blogs going to do in Virginia to help turn out the youth vote? Because obviously you have a lot of young followers. If the youth turn out...
No, this is actually, it's an amazing question, I'll tell you why.
It's a great question.
First of all, the really youth vote isn't even reading the blogs anymore. They're onto new technologies.
Oh, great.
So they're on Twitter, they're on other things. They're not even, so the youth vote is so not on blogs, okay?
Oh, wow,
all right,
okay.
So the blogs are going to do very little to turn out the youth vote. I think the blogs help generate content online, which is used through all sorts of social media that spreads out. And the biggest thing that I think bloggers do is create that baseline content for it to spread. For example, my blog is followed on Twitter by the Huffington Post, by the Maddow Show, why a lot of things explode from it, because when I post something interesting, they retweet it out to their audiences, which are even larger, more national. They'll syndicate things immediately. So that's how things move. And that's where a lot of people will get their information, is then when it shows up on these larger networks, people will share it on Facebook, they'll see it through in their own network. So it all is interchangeable, but the young people are really not on the blogs per se.
And I would challenge the whole concept of how are we going to turn out the young people vote, because it categorizes the young people as this monolith. And young people aren't a monolith. And young people vote. And it does a disservice to our younger generation.
Well, Evan, we are hearing music, which means we are going. I am going to say and lay down the challenge right now that I expect to see massive turnout of those Democrats that you say live in Loudoun County.
I'm working on it.
I expect to see it go for Barack Obama and Tim Kaine and Kristen Cabral, who is the congressional candidate. We'll continue to watch Not Larry Sabato and see what all is going. Thanks for watching us.